Okay, it's Thursday morning and I'm going out and about. Now, where I'm going, I haven't been in a long time. I'm looking forward to going there. And it's the danger zone. Yes, I'm recording in the car again. I thought I'd come out and try to do some outside footage where I talk about the rest of my venture into the cinema. But the weather kind of worked against me. I do have middle-aged geek girl with me. But I don't believe I'm going out to record because outside the car, it looks like this. Yes, I'm right. The tide's right in here at Werribee South. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the man cave. I'm going to caffeinate and I'm going to tell you what happened when I went to the movies. See you then. Okay, so back in the man cave, and it's nice and dry here and warm, so I'm happy. Yeah, so it was a weird experience going back to the cinema. Really more and less than I expected it to be. Now, the last time I've been to the cinema was the 20th of February when I saw Birds of Prey. And even then it felt slightly dodgy going to the movies with this new virus coming up and all that kind of thing. The cinema wasn't crowded at the time. And this time it was even emptier. There were 3 people in the movies, which means that the cinema complex made about $32 at the most from that particular session of the movie that I went and saw. I'm glad they're keeping things open. I'm glad they're keeping people in jobs, but it can't go on like that forever. It really does have to change in some way. What was the experience like? It was familiar but strange at the same time. The people there were nice and friendly, which they always are at my local village, and I'm kind of happy about that. They were glad to see people, I suppose, as well. So there's that side of things. But everyone, of course, was doing contactless payments. And I showed my phone with the barcode on it to give them the ticket. And going into the cinema itself, the door was already open, so I didn't even have to touch the door. It was a really odd atmosphere. But nonetheless, as I've said many times before here and in podcasts and other things, for me, cinemas are a sanctuary. They're a place where I feel safe and where I'm comfortable and where I like to be. And in there watching movies on a big screen with all of the sound systems that they have that I don't. And even watching the ads was a kind of nice thing this time around. Normally the ads they put on before a movie piss me off. But this time around they didn't. This time around I kind of went, okay, this is a comfort zone. I know we're going to get the ads about fishing on Port Phillip Bay and how you do safety on the water. There's usually a couple of ads about car dealerships and all that kind of stuff. There are a couple of new ones too. There was one about HIV, which I hadn't seen before. And of course there are some ads about safe distancing because of the current pandemic. So was it different? Yeah, well, it was different. It was last time I went, I think, with the Birds of Prey, there were a lot of school kids around and they were all dressing up as little princesses and in costumes and doing cosplay. There were a lot of kids' movies on at the time. This time the place was almost empty. It was an 11:15 session and there were maybe I saw maybe 5 or 6 people all up, apart from staff in the cinema. So it felt very much empty. So what did I see? I haven't actually told you what movie I saw. And that in itself is a kind of an interesting and slightly odd thing. It's a big blockbuster movie. It got incredibly good reviews, and it's 12 years old. They were redoing Dark Knight, so I watched that on the big screen again, and I enjoyed it. Rewatching it after this long, I knew how the third movie in the series went, of course, but I really appreciated Heath Ledger's work in it. I think the Christian Bale, yeah, he did okay as Bruce Wayne and Batman, but I think he's a little bit kind of generic. But Heath Ledger's Joker, having watched it after I watched the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, is the definitive Joker for me. There are some lovely things about it. First thing is, there's nothing of the actor for you to see. The character himself is a whole thing of his own. The way he licks his lips like a lizard, the fact that he's unpredictable, the fact that nobody knows his motivations for things, until, of course, Alfred does that famous line about some men want to watch the world burn. In superhero narratives, this was a major breakthrough in character development. There are only a few characters that have the impact that Joker had at that time. The other one I can think of is Owen Damien, the character that Philip Seymour Hoffman played in the third Mission Impossible film. His character is a dead solid psychopath as well, and it's probably the only one I can think of off the top of my head to compare with Heath Ledger's Joker. Very underrated bit of acting there by Philip Seymour Hoffman. And you've also got to give him props for jamming a bomb up Tom Cruise's nose, which is one of the things I really love about that movie. Yeah, I rewatched Dark Knight, and with a little touch of sadness because of the fact that cinemas had come to this because of this hideous disease. The other question I've got to ask myself, of course, is, would I do it again? And I have seriously thought about this. It feels odd to think that I have to think about whether I am going back to a cinema again. And even though the pandemic's here, and of course Australia has a lot less than many, many, many other countries, and we're averaging here in Victoria, which is way above anywhere else in Australia, about 60 or 70 new cases a day right when I record this. Would I go again? Yeah, I'd go again. If a new movie came out that I wanted to see, or if somebody did a retrospective movie that I wanted to see, I would go again. The tickets are cheap at the moment. The cinemas are pretty much empty. The cinema chains are being incredibly careful about social distancing and doing the right thing. Nobody wants a breakout because of somebody going to the movies. And I can respect that, and I understand entirely why they do it. So yeah, I'd go again, and I use hand sanitizer. I put a mask on until I got in the cinema and saw how far apart everybody was, and I knew it was okay to take the mask off. But yeah, it's an incredibly odd world we live in. It's changed so much since the start of the year. But I'm glad I went back. I'm glad I went to the cinema. I'm glad I had that experience, and I'm glad I'm able to share it with you now, because this is an oral history of our times in some ways. And we've all got to talk about it. I think that saying on particular platforms, including YouTube, that you get kind of, the algorithm doesn't like you if you talk about the virus is a mistake. I think recording the history of our times this way is important. I think talking about movies and also encouraging people, if you are in a place where things are relatively safe, go to the movies again. If you're in a place where it's not safe, and I would include in this recommendation all of North America at this stage, I'd say don't go back to the movies until there's either a vaccine or until you're very, very sure that social distancing is going to prevent you from acquiring this horrible virus. Like I said, weird experience. I think I'm going to be watching a lot more movies at home, but when something comes up I want to watch, I'm definitely going to do it in the cinema. And I possibly won't go with anybody else, but I will be incredibly careful regarding social distancing and the precautions with which we have become incredibly familiar. Definitely going to be part of what I do whenever I go out of the house these days. So thanks for bearing with me on this. If you haven't seen The Dark Knight for a while, definitely do so. It's worth a rewatch a dozen years after it was made. And Heath Ledger's Joker is an incredible piece of art. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you would go to the cinema and see if you could. And indeed whether you would actually go to the cinema again. It's a question that all of we cinephiles have to ask ourselves. And I don't think that there's a bad answer. I think it's a very individual thing. I think it depends on where you live, who you are, how at risk you are, and what precautions are being taken. But for me, that's just my experience of it. So let me know what you think as well. I'm really interested to see what people in different parts of the world feel about this particular question. Anyway, look after yourselves. Please, please, please stay safe. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Check out The Dark Knight again if you haven't seen it for a while. And if you're inclined to, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and also hit the notification bell. I'll be back in a couple of days with something totally different. I've got a few plans, and I'll see you then.